water follows sodium pretty much all the time, right? So it absorbs water into the bloodstream. Okay. What else does it do? It secretes potassium and hydrogen ions. So why do we fixate so much on that sodium-potassium ratio on an Addisonian? Because you're not reabsorbing sodium, so your sodium is low, right, on your bloodstream. And you're not secreting potassium into the tubules, so your potassium in your blood goes really high. Make sense? Does that make sense? I feel like a drill instructor here. Okay. ADH, antidiuretic hormone. What is the synonym for that? Vasopressin. Same thing. So ADH works at the collecting duct, and it does increase the aquaporins, right? And aquaporins are pores that allow more water to get reabsorbed. So when you are hypovolemic, or you have hyperosmolality in your blood, that induces a signal to increase ADH release. ADH release increases, then you're able to get more water out of the collecting duct, and therefore you're able to increase your water content in your bloodstream and help with the hypovolemia and help dilute whatever electrolyte is contributing to the hyperosmolality. Renin. So now renin is produced by this guy here. Who makes renin? G cells. Oh, they have a G? I like that. The G cells. J cells. And I'm old. J cells. Who said J? Who said that? JG. Who called him JG?
Just a chameleon.
So you guys know where the JG cells are. Where are they? They're hugging here the afferent arteriole. I don't think that matters a lot, but you need to know that they're there, right? What do they do? Renin. What does renin do? RAS. What is RAS? Yeah, so the renin, angiotensin 2, aldosterone system. You can call the sympathetic system. It'll be better. Finish it like that. Renin, angiotensin 2, aldosterone sympathetic system. Your fight and flight. All right. So how does that work? Let's leave it right there right now. If not, I'm going to go all over the place, and I'm still on page 3, section, point number C3, C3C, Charlie 3 Charlie. I finished renin. Okay, now I'm going to go into ANF, atrial natriuretic factor. So there's a modulating hormone for this renin-angiotensin aldosterone sympathetic system that's called ANF. It's a negative loop on the RAS. And it actually comes from the cardiac atria. When the atria senses high volume, let's say you're volume overloading a patient, or you have heart failure, it inhibits it feeds back into this renin-angiotensin aldosterone system, so you stop reabsorbing salt, you stop reabsorbing water, and it also promotes GFR, diuresis, and vasodilation. And those are the main hormones. And again, I really like this note because they put everything in 4 points. You have the hormones, the key ones. You can expand all day long. You can read Ettinger, no problem. Go ahead. But I think the main points are this. I'm kidding about Ettinger. I mean, if you want to, go ahead, but it's going to be rough. with everything else you have to do in your life. All right, acid base. So now we talked about kidneys handling fluid, kidneys handling electrolytes, kidneys being responsible for some hormones, but also affected by some hormones, and now we're going to talk about acid base. So big picture here, right? The kidneys are doing a lot. The big point with acid base is that the kidneys are responsible for reabsorbing a lot of your bicarb, okay? But they're also responsible for making ammonia. So it's a double effect on acid base, right? If you're very acidotic, your kidneys are going to reabsorb more bicarb and secrete more ammonia. This is why I rarely give bicarb to my acidotic patients. Not necessary. Your kidneys are going to help you once you make the kidney happy, right? With fluid therapy, with keeping the cardiac output elevated, with increasing the amount of hemoglobin in your blood so that you're not anemic, etc. Your kidneys are going to start regulating all of this on its own. The kidneys, as I said, are responsible for some hormones, erythropoietin, EPO, stimulates bone marrow production of red cells. So what happens if you have a chronically failing kidney? You become anemic, right? And you become anemic in such a way that you're not regenerating because you don't have EPO. If you're Lance Armstrong and you want to be really good at cycling, you inject EPO. And you increase your red cell count in your blood, so you increase your oxygen carrying capacity. You also practice like a bazillion hours a day. Cholecalciferol. Cholecalciferol is the same as vitamin D3. So your kidneys make that hormone. And that's important in actually reabsorbing calcium and to a degree phosphorus. That's more important for chronic renal failure, so I'll leave it to Dr. Martin to expand on that. We talked about renin, and then we have the renal prostaglandins. Renal prostaglandins are mediators that don't go into the bloodstream. They just act locally. They get released and act locally. So they're prostaglandins that get released locally here and affect the efferent and the afferent arteriole. But they don't go into the bloodstream. They're not. So that's the definition of a hormone. A signal that travels through the bloodstream from a distant place, let's say aldosterone, right? Adrenal cortex, and then it has an impact on the distal convoluted tubule, so it has to travel to the blood. But a local mediator is a prostaglandin. PG, prostaglandin. And they affect locally the efferent and afferent arterial tone. And there are a slew of them, and I'm not going to describe them in detail, because that's all you need to know, that there's local effectors there that are made by the same kidney. So in theory, that's a little typo. It's saying other hormones. Renal prostaglandins are not real hormones. They're just local signals. You know why I'm explaining all this crap? Because at some point I have to teach you fluid therapy. Right? Really, that's it. And at some point Dr. Martin will tell you about EPO and the renal diets and why do we have to eat low protein for, all this crap. We just keep that in perspective. All of this will be useful as a package to implement better fluid therapy than what I see out there, People plugging in the numbers and not really thinking about what they're doing. Excellent. So you guys are good with the juxta, what is it, JG, sorry, JG. The JG apparatus, how does it work? We tied in a little bit of renin, and we said that it affects, it starts a cascade of renin angiotensin aldosterone, right? That's important. But how does it get released? What is the signal? What is it? The macula densa. And what is macula densa? This is a convoluted tubule. You see how it's like anatomically, like really perfectly aligned? Let me show you a better image than this of how it is. Anatomically, they're like beautifully aligned. So this is a glomeruli here. And the glomeruli comes out here, proximal convoluted tubule. I go down, thin descending limb, thick ascending limb. And this is what? Distal And you see how it kind of kisses the glomerular? That's not anaxia. That's how it is. And the reason is, this portion of the distal convoluted tubule senses, specifically these cells that line that area of the distal convoluted tubule called the macula densa. It senses the amount of chloride that's traveling through that part of the tubule. And if the amount of chloride is low, renin gets released by the juxtaposed glomerular cells. Okay? When would your amount of chloride be low on that portion? Probably when you're dehydrated, right? Probably when your cardiac output is crappy because you're hypovolemic or you're in heart failure. Yeah? So then renin gets released, and then we kick this system called the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system. And I think you guys have a good grasp on all of this. When renin gets released, because the kidney, that area, the macula densa, is feeding less chloride, and these G cells then sense that, because they're nearby, and they release renin. Now, renin converts preformed angiotensinogen into angiotensin 1. And then this enzyme that comes mainly, or is found mainly in the pulmonary capillaries, but essentially blood will travel everywhere, right? Blood doesn't travel only to the kidneys or the heart, it goes to the lungs. As it passes through the pulmonary capillaries, it gets exposed to this ACE, and now this angiotensin 1 gets converted into angiotensin 2, AT2. Angiotensin 2 is huge. Look at all the effects it has. Let's pick one. The main one will be aldosterone secretion, right? It stimulates aldosterone by the adrenal gland, the cortex. And then aldosterone will increase tubular reabsorption of sodium. Sodium going this way, out of the distal convoluted tubule, into the peritubular capillaries here. So now we have more sodium in your blood, right? But it also secretes potassium and hydrogen, which is not here. So it kind of makes you less acidotic at the same time, and it makes you hypokalemic. Great? Great. That's aldosterone. So now we have more sodium in our blood. Angiotensin 2 by itself will cause vasoconstriction systemically, which is great, right? Because you can compensate for a shock. If I can vasoconstrict my hands, that blood then will come higher up into my heart, right? If I can, and that's really what we check, the CRT and all of that in a patient. Well, that's angiotensin 2 at work. During times when I have decreased chloride or perfusion to my kidney. Okay, so there's a need. Now I'm going to meet that need temporarily. Angiotensin 2 also stimulates ADH secretion from the posterior lobe of the pituitary gland, right? And we knew that. And that ADH stimulates water reabsorption from the collecting duct. And lastly, angiotensin 2 by itself will increase sympathetic activity. What does sympathetic activity do? Increase heart rate and increase stroke volume, and that means that I increase my cardiac output on its own. So now I'm increasing my cardiac output. This is the bottom line. I'm increasing my cardiac output when I stimulate the system. I'm increasing my water reabsorption, and I'm increasing my salt reabsorption. I'm basically auto-transfusing myself with fluids, right, in times of need. This is a good thing. Chronically, it's a horrible thing, right? So how can you get the system activated chronically? Why would you have low chloride traveling through a distal convoluted tube? If you're in heart failure. Yeah. If you're in heart failure. So patients with heart failure don't come to you because the heart fails, literally. It's because they're volume overloaded most of the time. Because they have this system chronically engaged as a means to survive. Okay? And our job is to give diuretics and decrease that blood volume. Kind of ironic. Just keep that in mind, and we're going to go over that a lot more, but I wanted to kind of give you that overview. So, response to decreased blood pressure, right? I'm on page 4. That's basically what I described. I started from decreased GFR, which means decreased chloride, sensed by the macula densa. It then stimulates renal release by the JG cells, and that goes into angiotensin II, and angiotensin II has a bunch of effects. There's a little myogenic stretch that we're going to talk about there. So the kidney itself, independent of renal release, when it senses low blood flow to my glomeruli, does its own thing to affect blood flow to the glomeruli, and we're going to cover that. And that's the decreased myogenic stretch. But the kidney also sends signals to the brain to release ADH and increase sympathetic drive when the blood pressure drops. And the whole goal, again, is to increase water, increase cardiac output, and increase sodium absorption. What is not in that loop is that when you increase then the water content of your blood and you increase the stretch of your atrium, guess what gets released, as we talked about? ANF, atrial natriuretic factor. So then that regulates that this system doesn't go out of control. Okay? So patients with heart failure have really high ANF because they're always trying to counteract the system being on overdrive. In fact, you can measure ANF on patients with heart failure. Not we, but in humans they can do that. Excellent. You really don't need to know this. Tubular glomerular feedback is the term, but you don't need to know the term. You need to know the concept, okay? I don't think NAPLI will ask you for what is tubular glomerular feedback. It will ask you about renin and angiotensin aldosterone system, and now you know. So don't worry about the terms. I just want you to know the concept. So as far as local regulation, let's talk a little bit about that, myogenic stretch. Let's think about this one. Afferent. If you vasoconstrict the input towards the glomeruli, am I going to have decreased GFR? Right? Let's leave that intact. If I decrease or increase the resistance or clamp down the efferent, am I going to increase GFR? Yes, why is that? I'm going to put you on the spot. You hear that? You're going to trap the blood in the glomeruli. Or you're going to squeeze on the outflow tract, and by that you're going to increase the pressure, back pressure, right? Make sense? Cool. So when they say renal blood flow, it's not the same as GFR. Renal blood flow is what the glomeruli sees. Assuming that my cardiac output stays the same, right? I haven't changed that. If I constrict the afferent arteriole, my renal blood flow will decrease. So will my GFR. Make sense? Now let's talk about the efferent. Keep the cardiac output the same. Keep the afferent tone the same. Now let's focus on the efferent. If I constrict, will my renal blood flow decrease? No. The input stays the same, but my GFR will, because I'm squeezing on the output. I'm not going to ask those questions, but I'm going to repeat it one more time because this is freaking important. This is how prostaglandins affect the myogenic stretch of the input and the output of the glomeruli on a beat by beat. Like we're alive because of this. This is not a static system, it's a very dynamic system. Afferent input, right? If my cardiac output goes up, let's say I go for a run, the input will increase, so that's renal blood flow, input into the capillaries there, right? And down into the efferents, but also my GFR, my filtration capacity. Glomerular filtration rate will increase, right? If I decrease here, or if I make it tighter, input, my renal blood flow will decrease, and so will my GFR. Yes? Leave everything intact. Let's dilate the efferent. Let's make it wider. What happens to my renal blood flow? It will drop now. And my GFR. The freaking working semantics. What happens if I tighten the output? My GFR goes up, but my renal blood flow doesn't get affected. And I think this is summarized in your document there. Look at page 5. Because this took me like 3 years to get. I'm like, what the heck is he saying? And what is the relevancy of that? Well, I told you it keeps you alive. But I'll take it even deeper than that. Are we looking at the little at the diagram there with the 3? Everyone has it? Let me go back. Let's do this. Right here. So this would be afferent arterial, goes into the glomerulus, and then you have filtration, right, which is called GFR. Renal blood flow goes in, GFR goes into the proximal convoluted tubule. If my renal blood flow drops because I am dehydrated or I am hypovolemic, I'm bleeding, then I will release angiotensin II. Yes? And angiotensin II preferentially constricts the efferent arteriole, thank God. And by doing that, it increases the GFR. Simple, straightforward. Well, what happens if we get an ACE inhibitor, which is what we do for heart failure patients? Well, I'm blocking that compensatory mechanism that in the face of hypovolemia or dehydration, I'm not allowing the efferent to constrict, so it stays dilated, floppy, so my GFR will plummet, okay? That's important. You have a heart failure patient, and he comes to you because he needs anesthesia, and the owner tells you, yeah, he's on an ACE inhibitor and diuretic.